Hey, hello, and welcome to What's the Story? My name is Janice Hermson, and I'm your host here with Doug Ashby in the studio and Ed Knoll, who is joining us from across the country on the East Coast. So thanks for stepping in, Ed.
Oh yeah, it's I love communication technology.
Pretty cool, isn't it?
It's
It's great
amazing,
when it
really.
works. It's
It's
great.
quite fascinating.
Ah, okay. Yep, it's great when it works. That's all I can say.
I don't know. Talk, Ed.
He's telling
I
me he
never,
can't hear you.
trust me, I never thought I'd say that.
He wants to hear you talk, Ed.
Well, that's troubling.
A bit more.
That is troubling, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right.
When I was working, this- Ed is going to love this. I knew firefighters would come on the job, and everybody wears a hat, right?
Yep.
Never in my wildest imagination did I think I need to tell a grown man the bill goes to the front.
Ah,
So that's your thing. I'm not really a grown man, I don't think.
that must be the problem, right?
You're still
I,
waiting for that to happen?
I'm fight,
All right.
I'm fighting it.
You guys are so funny. All right. Well, I want to remind everybody that you need to subscribe. Oh, wrong one. There we go. Need to subscribe to our Substack at the LaRue Press Network. What's the Story? Book Hound. And this is our picture for the word of the day. And it really very explicitly shows you what it is, and it's not castle. I probably should have said that. It's not castle, but it is. And we just kind of share a little bit with what we're doing for the day, and hopefully we cover it. Second hour, we got Paul White joining us, and he's going to talk a bit about Education Crusade and what he's doing with homeless and just a lot of different stuff. So he could probably take the 2 hours if we
Oh, yeah,
wanted.
he's awesome. He really is. I
Yep.
enjoy him.
But be sure to subscribe. Down here, you can also make comments. We always like to hear from you. And please like us if you don't mind. And it does help to keep the feed, keep the our stories in the feed. I guess that's what I would say. So anyhow, stepping over my words, but that's our Substack, and of course you can buy us a coffee. And I also, let me get back to being able to share this with you because I know Doug's got a bunch to say about the fires, but I want to get some of our stuff in before that.
Did he bring
So
me any chocolate?
I don't know if he did or not.
I've never felt so healthy as
That's
not eating
funny.
so much chocolate.
Yeah. So this is the buy me a coffee, and all it is we're just asking you if we're supported by what you provide and what we can do here at LaRue, and so anything you can do to help us out would be greatly appreciated. I also added our What's the Story Freedom Series cup. There's only one on there right now. You can always go to our store, which there's links on the Substack if you want, so that we can have you enjoy a cup of brew in our What's the Story cup.
That cup
They're
is
pretty cool.
awesome. That looked
Isn't that
awesome.
awesome? Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
nice looking cup. Yeah, we're only doing the 10 ounce right now, but we can add the 12 and 15 ounce if people. I had a lady come in, she saw him in here and she goes, "Oh, I'd like it if it was 15 ounces." And I was like, "Oh, I don't have that just yet, but I will." Because you have to design them for the size and all of that. And, I already did one graphic on it. You got to do more. I'm slow. What can I tell you? We're going to talk about being slow if we have time after we talk to Paul and publishing and why it's important to be slow, right?
Well, we
I,
have we have to get some things out of the way here with Ed. How's mom?
Yeah.
she's good. She's good. She's up and out on the couch, and my uncle, they're having some tomato soup and grilled
Oh,
cheese
nice.
sandwiches.
Oh,
It's dinner time here.
my favorite grilled cheese and tomato soup.
So
Oh, that's awesome.
she's up, and I'll have to say she's herself mentally, and she's back,
Yay.
and she's getting stronger physically, and appreciate prayers and thoughts, and she's doing great.
Oh, good.
Awesome.
That's good to hear, Ed.
Yes,
That
we're
really is.
glad to hear
Did
that.
you fix her this meal? That's the universal meal, you know.
I know.
Well, my uncle's here, and I'm telling you, I would have been overwhelmed without him. But between us, we divide up the jobs, whatever they are, and he's been the meal chooser, and it's been awesome because it's not one of my strengths.
Well, that's good, though. That's very good. All right, so let's get to our word of the day.
Okay.
Word of the day today, you saw the picture and it looked like a castle, but there's more to that than just the castle.
I have a question. How did you come up with this one?
I was searching around. Oh, I know how. I will tell you. So as I'm writing the talking about what we're going to do on the show, I mentioned that the inauguration is coming up, and that being the inauguration, right, and that it was just kind of quiet out there. And the last time we had an inauguration, they put up big old fences, right?
Yeah.
Well, that was what led me to
Ah.
our word of the day.
So
Because
before,
Go
I mean,
ahead.
before you guys go into it, well, never mind. Well, I'll let you go into it, and then I'll tell you my on site what that word looks like.
Oh, okay. All right. So, Doug, you want to share the word of the day?
Sure, sure. Yeah. Well, here we go. I kind of like this definition. Is a parapet is a dwarf wall.
Right. So you can see, because the inauguration last year, they put up all these big fences and the whole thing. And so I started doing little research on fencing and all of that, because I kind of wanted it to relate a little to that. And then I came up with this, and I said, well, it's definitely not a parapet, right? Definitely not that.
Well, it says it's a heavy rail around the edge of a roof, balcony, terrace, or a stairway, designed either to prevent those behind it from falling over or to shelter them from attacks from the outside.
Right. Right.
Modern, well, I guess it fits right here with what we're talking. I was going to say, this goes back to the Roman days.
Right. It's
and,
true.
Much to Debbie is my wife, and much to her credit, she always asks, well, what's the word of the day? And I told her, and I said, well, do you know what it means? And she says, sure, it's something that old soldiers could shoot through. And I thought, well,
wow, that was
by
good.
golly, that's right on.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
But
in the
you know, you
medieval
don't.
castles, they used to just pour over, right, hot oil and whatever they could throw over the sides to knock people down.
That's true.
Yeah.
But
Well, you don't.
We might need to learn from them, right?
if
You
you're
know-
looking at the word, to me, it looks like side pet. So it's like, right, like Jan has Rusty, if that's her main pet, maybe your neighbor's got a side pet that she sees and touches. So to
A
me,
parapet. Yeah,
if
that's
I'm
true. I see
I'm
that.
breaking it down,
know.
it's side pet.
That's
Well,
very
I
funny.
I don't think the people that are listening to us, they're probably thinking, well, this is pretty unique. How does it apply to me? Very explicitly, because in most modern building codes, and they have the universal building code, to be able to build a building, you have to justify the square footage. And to justify the square footage, you have to do certain things. Well, one of those is what they do to cut a big building down is they put firewalls in. Well, the firewall has to go not only to the ceiling, has to go up and through the wall and have a parapet. And the reason being is if there was a fire on one side, the fire can't lap onto the other side and all of the heat will shoot up above. If you look around, have any industrial area near you or shopping center, they're littered with parapets.
Well, they're all parapets because, I mean, otherwise it'd just be a flat roof on top. They all
Yeah.
have a edge to them,
Yeah. I
whether
was
it's a
wa-
wall or it's designed or whatever. They all have an edge, which could be described as a parapet.
One of the things, and I did spend close to 3 years in fire prevention. And so you get to know, and you know there's certain things that you look for, and this happens to be one of them about how big can you build a building. One of the things that they say is that if you have a sprinklered building and you have all clear side areas, you can build that building as large as you want. Well, drive behind some of these buildings that you see now, and you see how it's littered with these containers. That's in violation of this clear space rule.
Oh, yeah.
So they
It
could
would
shut
be,
them
huh?
down. But I venture to say there is an inspector out there that would, number one, go down that road, but number two, probably even know about it.
Well, where you guys are located, and certainly in Reno, with the airport being in the middle of town, right? There's elevation limits of significance on both sides of, right where LaRue Press is,
Oh, yeah,
to the
definitely.
south where I live.
Yeah, it's true. It's very
Well,
true.
isn't, you stop and think about that for a second. Isn't that something that one tenant, the airport, controls the city?
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty much.
that's
Pretty much.
That's pretty powerful, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is.
But would we want it any other way?
So, did you do any synonyms with parapet, or are we?
I certainly did.
Yeah, I had a whole long thing, but you took up most of it, so that's cool.
Yeah. So,
That's cool.
Bookward, Stockard, Bastion, Fortification, Palisade, Corral. I don't know about that one.
No, corral doesn't sound like it's really
Well, when you stop and
appropriate.
think
I mean,
about
it's
it,
sort of a synonym,
yeah.
I guess. What do you think,
And-
Ed? You think it's a corral?
No,
Walls.
I was interested by the Palisade, right? Do we think Pacific Palisades had lots
Oh.
of parapets?
He's leading us into something.
Yeah, but we can't go there until we talk pizza. We got to talk pizza first because you're going to take up
What?
the show. I know you are.
What a bridge! What a bridge!
I know it's a great bridge, but we're not going there. The roasting or the fire has got to be roasting the pizza.
Well, keep the crust small,
That's right.
right? If
Oh
we're
my-
going to are we ready to step into pizza?
Let's talk pizza. It's National Pizza Week. Did everybody know that? It is National Pizza Week. Who knew? Right?
When my son was young and in college or any time, right? Pizza is one of those foods that, right? It's a hand food. You don't need silverware. It's easy to eat, and about 1 billion places provide it. Per the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, so one slice of cheese pizza is about 285 calories.
Wow.
That's a bunch.
That's a
Well,
lot.
And it has, it's packed full of nutrition, certainly for young or old. That one slice has about 24% of your saturated fat for the day, about the same of sodium. It does have 20% of calcium because of the cheese, and 15% of the iron due to the dough. And based on a 2,000 calorie diet, you can throw vegetables in there. If you have thin crust, it's a highly nutritious meal.
That's
It
good.
can be.
That's good.
And
Yeah, it can
I
be.
mean, it really can. If you go low crust like that, right? Like the picture in front of you, thank you. The thin crust pizza with vegetables on it, it's a nutritious meal. My challenge has always been, it's one of the foods that I can't stop eating. I overeat it, right? If I stopped at 2 slices, but my desire is to eat the whole thing.
Well, I'm going to go ahead, and this is not a sponsor of ours, but I'm going to plug Mountain Mike's because they have a pizza that is so awesome, and it's got mushrooms and olives and all sorts of things on it, and meats, and I don't remember which one that is, but I'm not somebody who eats mushrooms. So when I first tried the pizza, I was like, I'll just take them off because everybody else liked the mushrooms, right? So we were buying big pizza. And I said, I'll just take them off. I'm used to that,
Yeah.
right? And I decided to try it. And oh man, it was so good. And so it's just,
Well, you know, the one of the problems that I have with what Ed just said, if I could take exception to it, growing up in college, you know, I belonged to a fraternity, Kappa Sigma, and after every meeting, and after everybody certainly met at the house, the fraternity house, we would always go have pizza and beer.
Of course.
Now, he only mentioned half of it. You never
Well,
have pizza without beer. Come on.
Well, I do, right? I guess I do.
Yeah.
And right? I likely it's still healthy if you have one beer, maybe
Yeah.
two with
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
Right?
never float that thought in a fraternity
Even
house.
though, even though I'm a denier of it, but pizza is really, if you have young kids, it's okay for them to get a little extra fat if they're active kids, and
That's true.
for us too, it's just the overeating factor, right? Because
Yeah.
you eat 4 slices, you can't eat anything else that day.
Yeah.
Well, here's
Well,
something
that
too.
looks like a good pizza, though. That one on the
It
screen
does
with
totally.
it looks like it might have.
would
Is
be-
that spinach or something on there? I don't know what that is, but it looks good. Tomatoes. It just looks like a good pizza.
Well, you
Ed,
get tomato sauce, you get
Yeah.
whatever peppers. You can also use crushed pepper and Parmesan cheese or other
Sure.
toppings to make it a little fatter, even.
Yeah.
Well,
And I
here's-
thought that I put on the screen the timeline of the pizza, and it says that ancient Egyptian and Greek pizza. The first pizza is basically a flatbread topped with olive oil, herbs, and spices. Then 1830, the first pizza parlor. 1905, pizza comes to the U.S. So in case you were wondering when the U.S. got it, that's when it was. 1984, Papa John's, and that's as far as they went on that part. But just thought that was kind of interesting.
In the
So,
east right now, or northeast, right, they're getting pummeled by a winter storm. And in winter, right, this pizza, that extra fat, helps keep you warm. I think it's
true.
it's a food for colder climates, certainly.
well, here's something that you have to mention. You just have to mention when you mention pizza. Pizza is a lot like spaghetti. You put it in the freezer, or you put it in the refrigerator, and it's better the next day.
It is. I
Or
have to
cold.
agree with that. Yeah, or cold. Yeah.
You need it cold.
Pizza for breakfast is awesome.
It is.
I enjoy that every now and
And I
then.
used to pop a non-alcoholic beer with it,
Yep.
just for
Yep.
old time's sake.
There you go. I was going to mention that, but I thought maybe I'd get booed because I like non-alcoholic beer.
Well, best I know, right? They find them. They still, if you go out to a restaurant or a bar, best I know, those are the dustiest beverages there are.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
Well, again, you go, with a fraternity brother you have to get 3 or 4 pitchers of beer. And for years, I thought that pitcher was just a glass of beer.
You're very funny. Oh, so it's not as great a segue to the fire stories, but I do want to get into that. I'll save mine for after if we have time. I was going to talk about democracy and a couple of other little things, but I think that this is really important. I know I actually had somebody that asked me if you were going to talk about the fires, and since that's your home ground,
That is very
and
much
actually
so.
the one in West Hills, I used to live in West Hills, so I was quite familiar with what was going on over there. So
Well, a lot of this LA County, excuse me, I'm sorry. Altadena is an unincorporated county area, and we serve. It's our Station 11 is there. Right next door, the next fire station over is Station 19. That's where I got my captain's promotion to, was Station 19, which is in La Cañada, Flint Ridge. So those areas that they were talking about, I knew very, very well. And then over the course of a career, seems like every season we would take engine companies or strike teams out to Malibu. So I spent a lot of time out there fighting fires in Malibu. So all of these areas, all of these canyons, all of these streets ring a bell with me. But now the problem that I have with what we're talking about is where to start. So I guess the best to do is let's go to the beginning as best we can. And we have talked about fires, wildland fires on this program before. And one of the statements that I have made, and I was thinking about this today, whether I should bring it up, because I'm sure there's probably few exceptions to it. But the vast majority of wind-driven, which we get quite frequently in LA County or in Southern California, wildland fires, you are not going to put out as long as the wind blows. And unfortunately, that's just what happens in wildland fires. Now you look at the battle going on between the fire chief of LA City and the mayor of LA City. They're going back and forth. Oh, you cut money out of my budget. It was this, it was that. In defense of her, which it needs to be done. I don't care how much money they took out of her budget or how much money they would have put in her budget. As long as the winds were blowing the way they were blowing, that fire is not going to go out, and it's going to spread, and it's going to spread very, very rapidly. Okay?
Yeah, but let's talk about the fact that they have no water.
Well, again, you really don't put a wildland fire out with water. Certainly, it assists you in doing that. But let's look at these heavy lift airplanes, fixed wing airplanes, and you see them and they're dropping retardant. Oh my gosh, that's a workhorse of the. Where do they get their wire? They get from an airport someplace. That's not titanium. They use Phos-Chek, so when they fly over, what they do is they try to start at a baseline, which is usually at the origin of a fire, and work out on both sides. And you try to work out on the most active side. Well, let's think about that. If you were an instant commander, would you put guys in fire engines, men on the ground, men and women on the ground, in front of a windblown fire? Boy, you'd be crazy to do that. But these heavy lifts, these fixed wing airplanes, they do that perfectly. So they are an absolute perfect tool. And then the helicopters, what they do is they go up and they pick up these little spot fires. Okay, let's talk about spot fires for a second. I'll say rule for lack of a better descriptor. And it's, if they post, it's from 1 to 100. And what they're saying is that if you have, say, a spot factor today of 95, what that's telling you is for every ember that blows across your line and lands on the other side, 95 times out of 100, it will start a spot fire. So when you look at, and what you do is if you get your morning report, that's one of the factors that will be in that, is what is the spot fire? You certainly want it low. One of the things at the very, very top, would have to be wind velocity. Well,
Okay, but a comment that just came in, yet they can't fly in high winds, so people on the ground are required.
Well, yes and no. You're absolutely right. But I'll tell you what, I've seen these fixed wing, and those guys, boy, I'll tell you, you want somebody that deserves, and I've been on the ground and watched them. They're flying literally over ridge tops. And what makes that so dangerous is they fly from the bottom to the top, and they plan on lift. When they get to the end of dropping their load, they need lift to get over the next peak that's there. Well, if they have a malfunction or something, and that water doesn't leave that airplane, they're in trouble. They are really, and that's literally how crashes happen. But no, I'll tell you what, I give those, but he is correct. high winds like that, certainly the rotary wing, the helicopters, they aren't flying, and for two reasons. One, they get batted around. They try to drop very, very low, but the wind doesn't let the water go where it's supposed to. So they just pull them off. And for years when I was working, we wouldn't allow our helicopters to fly at
So,
night.
having been in that area, there are 4 different fires going on right now. I know
Yes.
when I lived there, that never happened.
Yeah.
There were a lot of different fires that occurred, but never like this. They're blaming climate change. The Democrats, a lot of the Democrats, I saw a stat today from Rasmussen, I think it said 84% of the Democrats believe that it's, and I could have that stat wrong, but it was a high number of Democrats believe that it's climate change. How likely is it that that would be a cause? Because it is different. It's definitely different.
Well, let's talk about, if you just throw the word climate change out there, is there climate change?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But,
there is.
however, it's not like the Democrats or the liberals portray it. If anybody took physical geography in college or in high school, they will tell you, yes, climate changes over time. And the smallest area that they use or time frame that they use is 100 years. Now, over the last 100 years, has our climate changed? You betcha. So do we have climate change? Yes, but not to the extent that they're talking about. So, but how does climate affect this? First of all, there's 2 things that go into humidity of the brush. Number one is how long has it been hot? Because when the sun beats down on whatever it is, trees, brush, whatever, grass, you name it.
He's got a question.
So, Doug, when you were at the fire department in any capacity, did they have a plan for such a thing, right?
Yeah, because the Santa Anas were around
expectation?
forever.
Did they have a plan for what?
Well, for the city burning.
For the
20% of the
city burning
city.
like it is?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I can't,
I
your
mean, to me,
tactic,
right?
your
I mean,
your tactic doesn't change for what's going on right now. If you have low humidity, which drives, and what they call it, it's called fuel stick. They measure literally a piece of wood, they weigh it and tell you what the moisture content is and they can tell you what the relative humidity is for that day. Coupled with the dry Santa Ana winds, dries that brush out. So when it gets hit with the wind, what does the wind bring to it besides physically moving it? It brings more oxygen to it. So it burns hotter. So
I'm getting that. I just don't think that the average individual would have ever thought this possible.
well,
I mean, it's a city.
Does it
One
seem
second,
It's a major
does
you
it
know,
seem reasonable with what you've seen that has occurred? And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm
that's
going to do
fine.
that.
I like
Does
that.
it seem reasonable to you that it could naturally occur this way because of the Santa Anas? Again, we've had Santa Anas like that. I lived down there. I've been here 30 years. And, prior to that, I lived down there for at least 20. And
Well,
they were always there. So
only-
what's the difference now is, I guess, my
The only way you
question.
can answer that correctly, and I don't think you're going to get an answer,
Of course not,
is to ask the good Lord, how come we had these severe winds? You don't know it depends on what happens with is that there's a high that
Yeah, but
develops.
take the 40,000 foot view.
Yes.
You live there and
Yes.
you worked that area for many, many, many years, and this
Yes.
never happened.
Well, but
What's
okay,
different?
I can
That's
answer
what
that.
I'm wondering.
You look
What's
at
different?
the reason you get Santa Ana winds is over the 4 corners up there of those states, you get a high pressure. Now, how high is the high pressure? Like I say, the good Lord only knows that. Nobody knows what drives a high pressure or low pressure. And out in the Pacific, there's a low pressure. Wind is a physical substance. And what it does is it flows. It flows from the high to the low, depending on, again, depending on the velocity of it, is how high is the high and how low is the low. You can't determine those. So to ask this, let me put it in another perspective. When you get a building permit for something, what they'll say, are you in a flood area? And what they do is they rate you on 100-year flood. That's what the worst condition that you could think
Sure.
of in 100 wind conditions. They don't do that with Santa Ana's, but this could be very applicable to that. You don't know from 1 year or
Ed
how
has another
frequently
question, I
they
can
are.
see.
Pardon?
Ed has another question.
You just don't seem to be surprised yet. Everyone on TV, every news outlet, the mayor, the governor, right? Everybody seems to be blown away surprised. Is there any kind of mitigating factor?
No,
Anything they could have
yeah,
done
I'm
differently to
sure they are
save the
surprised.
city?
Ed, the reason they're surprised is because everybody's pointing fingers. And like I said, in defense of the fire chief for LA City, there was no way.
Well, there are also arsonists out there, it seems, so that's not helping,
Well,
right?
Janet. See, that's the thing. You have wind, you have humidity, and then you have a
Right,
source of ignition.
right.
Again, that's a variable. So, and
Agreed.
unfortunately, very, very unfortunately, conditions that we're seeing today bring out the goofballs.
I agree with that. I totally get it. But I'm going to go back to Ed's point, which I think was you don't seem surprised at all that this happened. And yet I'm saying to you for 40, 50 years, nothing like this has ever happened. And he asked the question, is there a plan? Was there a plan? Was there ever a thought that, hey, what if? I mean, as a business person, I do plan A, plan B, plan C. If this
Right.
happens, I'm going here. If this happens, I'm going there. Does the city do that? Does the county do
But
that?
Well,
and
see, there's
I'm reading everything I can read about it, Doug, and best I can tell, there's like 3 spots, right? This is just three. It's not like somebody shooting a flamethrower around. It's 3 spots this started, and we got a fire of like San Francisco proportion.
see, the thing of it is, and I saw this, I believe it was last year, it could have been the year before that, where they had, again, this was in Central California, and the wind was so severe, it was blowing this. When you see a development of homes with pretty much fire protection incorporated, they don't have wood shingle roofs, they have plaster sides, and, they have good distance between the homes. Up there, what had happened, the wind was so severe that it got a row of homes started, and then it just strictly blew it through that community. We've never
So, do
seen
we
that
here in
before.
Reno have to be concerned about that? I mean, we got some major wins here.
We
Well,
got major
Janice,
issues with insurance, right? I mean, the
Yeah. I
insurance
look at
oh,
companies that cancel
Washoe
California
can
are going to
yeah,
cancel us.
yeah.
We're in California as far as they're concerned,
They've already started canceling people in Washoe Valley.
right? I've
well,
been canceled.
one of the things that I found unusual between here and our winds, they will say, excuse me, and as you guys well know, last month we were evacuated
Yeah.
for 6 days,
You faced
and
this.
they had 24-mile-an-hour winds. The difference between our winds here and in Southern California will tell you that they have 45-mile-an-hour wind gusts. What does that mean? It means it's not a constant. It
Right.
just blows. Here, you have 40-mile-an-hour winds. It's constant. And there's a big difference.
Well,
I was amazed by
mean,
that. I'm standing out there and I'm thinking, well, when is this going to end? And they say, well, we don't know. Well, you mean it's not a gust? No, that's
well,
the difference.
over and over and over again, whether it's Pleasant Valley Elementary that my son was in and houses burned to the ground, I raised constant cane about increased density, down that bottleneck of Washoe Valley that, right, the county, state, they're shoving down our throats. And to me, they're partially responsible. I mean, you can see the danger signs. What are they doing?
And I'll
Okay.
go back to my original and to Ed's original question. What's the plan, folks? Who's got the plan?
Well, the only glitch in their armor in LA City, and it hasn't been mentioned. I saw it mentioned one time, and it's very biggie. They were talking about budget cuts to the fire department and trying to run the budget. And one of the helicopters from the news media flew over the shops that repair LA City fire equipment. And it says, look out there. There was probably 100 fire engines that were in need of repair. And they asked about that. And they said, yeah, there's no budget to hire a mechanic. Now, you want to talk about that. When we got our new fire chief in LA County, a fellow by the name of P. Michael Freeman, he came in and looked at our shop. We were in the same shape. And he says, that's unacceptable. That's absolutely. So he found the money to get the mechanics, and we got all of those where in an emergency, they could be staffed and sent to the fire.
So it's a typical answer. It's always about the money
Well, let me,
or lack of.
Janice, yes.
Life is
Absolutely.
check-
Yeah,
life
wait a
is
second,
not
but
checkers, it's
but
chess, and
you
no one
have to-
looks ahead.
It's just like the 100-year flood. How much money do you want to spend for staffing and fire trucks? Do you need 50 more, 20 more? You go to the worst case scenario. We are going through the worst case scenario.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Did anybody sit down and say, hey, we're growing. This is the big plan. Do we incorporate into that plan the plan A, plan B, plan C?
I don't
think they do.
Janice,
Wake up, Reno
well,
Sparks, right?
Yes,
We ought to be
exactly.
doing it
Well,
right
Steve
now.
actually just posted the heat map that was released for Reno and Sparks, and I'm not sure what it shows. I can't click on it right now while I'm on air, but I'd like to take a look at that and see what it
If our
shows.
cities in the West aren't doing that right now, if this isn't a call to action for a plan, I don't know
well,
what
see,
is.
but wait a minute. Put your fire chief hat on right now, and you say
You can do that. We can't.
Well, that's right. say from one year to the next year. Last year, how did we handle the Santa Ana winds? We did a pretty good job, because they were for 3 days or 5 days or what, but we did. So you use that as a template. Now moving forward, you say, well, how much more money do I need for engine companies? Well, it worked last year. We'll use that same template.
We
for
should
this
really
year.
give your credentials for why we're grilling you on this
Oh,
fire
no,
stuff.
I love it. I love it.
But we should let everybody know that may not know you that you actually were a fire chief in Southern California and
but,
Los Angeles
it's-
County, and for many, many, many years. So that's
Well,
where
and
the
that's
knowledge
another
comes from.
thing. 100 years is somebody's life, right? I mean, you
Well-
can be fire chief for 20 years. The chance is like 1 in 5 that it's going to happen.
Okay, so Steve has a question for Doug. How many of these areas should be rebuilt with large fire breaks in them to stop this in the future?
Well, two things. That's a two-pointed question. Well, it's like radiation. It's time, distance, and time and distance. And one of the things that he's asking is, should we have larger areas between homes in a new building code? I would say yes. But now, again, that's a money issue. How much money do you put on planning for an incident like the incident that we went through now? You don't know if it's going to happen again. So when you staff up like this, well, I guess I can answer my own question. As long as there's growth here in Southern California and the communities are getting bigger, yes, you're going to need to have more fire trucks. But here, when you take a fire science class, they say, is fire protection equal for everybody in the community? And the answer to that is no. The guy that lives next door to a fire station has much better fire coverage than the guy that lives 10 miles away.
Sure.
Let me tell you again a story about the LA County Fire Department. We have a lot of rural areas in LA County, and a friend of mine got promoted the other side of the Angeles Forest out there, and the fire station that he went into, brand new boot captain, he goes out there, and they get an alarm for a fire. And they open up the door, and they can see this large header of smoke coming up. He goes, oh my goodness. And he asks the driver, he says, how long till we get there? And the guy says, well, if I really hit it, we go as fast as we can, we'll be there in 2 hours. That's how some areas are. They're out. Well, now, if they wanted equal fire protection, every 5 or 6 miles, they would have a fire station. But how practical is that?
Sure.
That is it in a nutshell of what we're talking about here.
But it's more, seems to me like this is city officials, governor stuff. I'm not, the firefighters got what they got and the tools they got and stuff. I'm not putting it on them, but people, there has to be a plan. How is there not a plan?
Well, Ed, there is. What makes you think there's no plan?
It looks to me like helter skelter.
I know. Well, firefighting is helter skelter. Let me tell you, I think I could float something out there that the vast majority of people who are listening will agree with. Would they rather pay money for illegal immigrants floating into this country, or would they rather build up their fire protection?
Well, you know the answer.
Exactly.
So today, you know the answer.
Sure. Well, unfortunately, with the vast majority, just like Jan says, you know the answer. I do know the answer. The vast majority of people would say, we don't need this unbridled influx of people that have only a nickel in their pocket. We have to supply some things for them. I would rather keep them out if we're going to have people come in, have them do it legally, and let's spend the money instead of on them putting them up in hotels and giving them food and you name what else they give them, and put it into fire protection. How many people would disagree with that?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now.
So, Ed, there is an answer.
Where are all the folks going that are unhoused? Best I know, Las Vegas and Reno is closest for many of those folks. And we're going to get an influx, and they're building here like no tomorrow. They're not looking at lessons.
Well, who's not looking at lessons?
Our government.
I think they are. I think that, I don't know how many, I don't know.
Well, we're going to actually have Paul White on in the next segment or in the next hour. And he's going to talk a little bit about what's going on in with the homeless and, some of that, which also translate into, yes, we've had down the street from us, we've had that happen.
Isn't it, wouldn't you think that a city official, one of the basic philosophies that they should have is take care of your people in your community?
You would think.
It's a fundamental.
Yeah. We're the ones paying the taxes. We're the ones paying your salary.
It's a fundamental function of government.
Yeah.
But what the bottom, I want to say this because I can lead into something I put off for later, but it's very.
Well, later is here.
Okay.
We only have a few more minutes.
What do politicians do? Not so much conservatives, but on the other side of the aisle, they do feel-good stuff. Oh my goodness, look what I did. Doesn't that feel good? And I'll talk about it a little bit more. But President Biden just, I guess it's a stroke of his pen. He's given $770 to all the people.
Like they did in North Carolina.
So they have.
And the people in North Carolina are still fighting their own fight, FEMA's not doing as much as most people think they should.
That is not what FEMA was established for.
I don't care. Somebody's got to help them.
Yeah,
Somebody's got
those
to help
folks are
them.
living in tent
Maybe
different
I'm naming the
shelters.
wrong organization. Maybe it's not FEMA. We
again,
need to have people.
When I was in college, one of the slogans that we had, they talked about Uncle Sam all the time. And one of the slogans, and I really liked it because I certainly remembered all these years, he's your uncle, he's not your dad.
I'm hearing that, but I'm also going to say that I have read stories, and I don't have them available to me now, where the Amish came in and they built them these houses, and they did them in a very brief period of time, and then they were told, oh, that doesn't match code. Come on. This is an emergency. This is keeping people alive. This isn't about, I'm going to go on a rant here because this is ridiculous. This is about human life.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't care what organization, as I said, it doesn't matter if it's FEMA or somebody else, but when people come in and help other people, they should be allowed to do what they need to do.
Oh,
and darn well that the Amish did a good job. They did. There ain't no doubt about it.
Yeah, but they couldn't. Well, see, here's something else.
But maybe it wasn't to code. Give me a break.
Wait a second. I got to throw this out there because people will probably laugh, or maybe not. One of the problems that we have is that, again, with fighting wildland fires, if you go into an area that's designated as a special area that the Forest Service has designated as, I don't know what the proper name of it would be, but you cannot use motorized equipment to stop fires. If you fell a tree like they do with chainsaws, can't use a chainsaw.
Right,
You got to use
right.
an axe. If you clear areas with a experimental forest, that's what I was looking for. You have to all do it by physical power, because what they say is that it's not. Again, using a tractor, they say use a tractor, you will make a furrow that'll take 100 years to get it back to nature.
So my whole point there was that these folks built buildings that could occupy people, protect them from the weather, and on a temporary basis, some government official, whether it's FEMA or somebody else, could have said, hey, we're going to authorize a temporary regulation to allow this to happen for X period of time so these folks can get through the winter. And then we're going to talk about regulations. Anybody could do that. They could.
Well, but see here, but now this is your criteria. Maybe it had to do with indoor plumbing and having an outhouse.
I don't care.
So,
you
Doug,
see, when you get on that slippery slope, do you see how it just...
The slippery slope is people are going to die. That's
Mother
the slippery
Nature-
slope.
Absolutely.
Mother Nature and God aren't going to take the hit on this. Who's the responsible party?
And these people are trying to help themselves. It's not like they're saying, government, help me.
Yeah.
They're trying to help themselves. And the government is now saying, stop. No, you don't meet the criteria. No, that's wrong.
This is absolutely perfect. Or, I'm sorry, if somebody in Arizona sends a fire truck over here to go to Malibu, according to the powers
You can't make this stuff up segment.
Well, I'm going to best
Right?
I know the
They
code
have to
ain't
go to
nothing,
Sacramento to have that fire truck authorized to be able to go all the way from Arizona to Sacramento to be able to go back down to LA. Ridiculous.
Yes.
There should be some place. I'm not objecting to having some authorization. That's okay. But not having to go out of your way, that's just dumb.
What's this? But
You can't make it up.
Let me kind of sum up what I think we're talking about. When you get unseasonable, no, actually it is unseasonable.
Yes, it
because
is.
We get most of our Santa Ana winds towards the end of the year.
Right.
It's rare to get them in January.
Yes, it is.
So when you get the unseasonable winds,
So
you
conspiracy theorists would say, HARP?
yeah. So then, you get the unseasonable winds. You get, prior to that, you get massive growth because of a good rainy season. There's no way to control that. So we have to work with the given. These winds and what we're going through now probably won't happen for another 50 years. But there again, it could happen next year. So
That's
how
right.
do you plan?
I don't know. We
Well,
got
you got
about
to have one to start with to adjust it.
yes. Let's start with a plan.
Okay,
Yeah.
Any
let
plan
me
at this
throw
point.
something else out. Let me.
I'll help.
Oh, I want to throw something else out there. You talk about a plan, Ed. Okay, and you talk about getting the best things that we can to try to mitigate the damage that's going to be done. How does DMI and
DEI, is that what you're saying?
DEI
Yeah.
and
Yeah, but that's easy to blame.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
well,
Doug,
it deserves to be blamed.
just like the fires we had that broached your house. What's the plan if a fire rips through Arrow Creek, Saddlehorn, right,
Right.
Mount Rose Highway? Where do those people go? What's the evacuation plan?
Right.
What's
Is
the
there a
overnight
plan?
housing plan? Right,
Well,
there's got to be one.
they
It's
do
gonna
have
happen.
evacuation plans, but where does family come into this? I would like to think that the family is stepping forward and saying, "Hey, I know well."
On
let
on
me.
that note, we got to go.
Okay, all
We
right.
got to cut this. I'm sorry, but we've run up right up to the wire. We got to take our short break. We'll be back a little bit after 4. It's 3:55 now, and so a little after 4 we'll be back on again, and we'll do our second hour with Paul White, who is with Education Crusade, and he's going to talk about homelessness with us today. All right. So thank you guys. Doug Ashby, our expert on fires, and Ed Knoll, our expert on food.
On
I'm just
pizza.
here.
On pizza.
All right. So we will return quite soon. You're gonna see us, but you're not gonna hear us. All right. Take care, everybody. Be right back. Mike. Yeah, there you go. Welcome back, everyone. This is Janice Hermson. We are back and glad to see you all here. Welcome. And we have Paul White, who has joined us on the set. Ed is not here just at the moment, but I'm sure he'll come back in a little bit. He's probably helping out his mom and maybe having some tomato soup and grilled cheese.
Good. Is he just visiting or is he living down there now?
No, he's just helping his mom. His mom had a little incident, so
Nice.
he's down there taking care of her, and I
Good for
guess his uncle is there as well. So they're teaming to take care of mom. So,
Nice.
Yeah, we're glad to hear that.
Can you turn him down just a little bit?
Here's what I'm going to do for you, my friend. How's that? Is that better?
I don't know.
Testing. How is
A
it?
little more down.
All right, just a second here. See, we can't do this when we're live all the time. Go ahead, try it again.
Testing.
Yeah, that's a little better. Yes.
Up.
Yeah. A little too low.
He's too sensitive, right? We're doing our sound check here now, guys.
Okay.
Testing.
Testing,
Perfect.
testing. All right. And we're off our break. And if you do have questions or you'd like to text, you can text to 775-399-2888. And of course, you can always go on to the comments if you're on Facebook. If you're on Rumble, unfortunately, I'm still not getting my feed from Rumble on here. So once I figure that out, that's the engineer's problem, not yours. And I'm the engineer, so
Okay, I was going to say, and who might the engineer
that
be?
would be me. So as soon as this engineer figures that out, we'll get things taken care of. So, and I did have a gentleman that contacted me and offered to help out. So I thought that was really nice, and I will be getting a hold of him and see what he can do to help.
Good.
Yeah, we always like a little assistance here and there, right? Hey, Ed, welcome back.
There's Ed.
Oh, I'm not hearing you, Ed. I don't know if that's me. It shouldn't be me.
Oh, that's okay. It's just Ed.
It was me. I somehow
Oh, looky
There he
there.
is. There he is.
We got Paul on the
Good
set.
idea.
Hey, Ed, thank you for the good questions, both you and Janice. That was fun.
And
Well,
Steve,
I
too.
think those are questions that folks have.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and we did have, I had somebody come in the shop today and say, is Doug going to talk about the Palisades fire? So they were expecting you.
Good.
Great.
Good.
So yeah,
I, as a chief officer, what they say is run to the round room. They'll never corner you there.
that's
I
funny.
like that.
Yep, and we will be replaying this on 93.7 FM from 7 to 9 p.m. So if you miss any of this or you just want to hear some of the stuff again, you can tune in there tonight and you'll be able to hear a replay. So
Good.
there you go. So Paul, Mr. Paul White has been working on Education Crusade for quite some time now. Did a show here with us for a period of time, which was well received, and still on the LaRue Press Network in case you want to check that out.
I enjoyed it very much.
Yes, and so now though we're going to talk. You were talking primarily about education when we did that, and. But right now, what we wanted to talk with you about, you set out a homeless problem update, and I thought it was quite informative. And one time, I actually read your whole email on air because I thought it was so good.
Thank you.
And I thought it was important, and I did have people again commenting saying, "Hey, that was great information."
Great.
So, but I wanted to bring you on and make sure that people get the straight scoop of what's going on here in Reno with our homeless population. And before I let you start talking, because I know you're going to just take it, we are on Gregg Street in Reno, right across from the Grand Sierra Resort. And just about a block from us, not even a full block, there was a homeless camp sitting there. And I have to say, it took probably, and I had called Paul about it and asked him what I could do. I didn't have to act, actually. Somebody, maybe you did, but somebody did apparently contact the city because they started, moving the folks out. But it took so long. They had trash cans all over the place. I mean, it was a mess. And, you're proud of your city most of the time. And just really found it hard to believe it took so long for them to clean it up. But I was glad to see it go. It is cleaned up now. So why don't you address some of those issues and what entrepreneurs like us should be doing?
Boy, in 25 words or less.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, while we start at the beginning, this is my 50 or 51st year in working with homeless. I started in Detroit, worked down with students and myself down in the Midnight Mission area, Skid Row of LA, the heart of San Francisco, Ventura County for many years, and here in Reno for quite a few years. I would tell your listeners, Jan, that to start with, we've got a real misnomer that needs to be gotten out of the way, and that is how we identify them. In this 50 years of working with homeless, so-called, I've never come across one legitimate homeless person. Not anywhere in the United States I've been. And I would submit that we don't have that here either. And legitimate meaning someone who is, through whatever reason, health, economics, whatever, is on the street, can't find any place that will take him in and help him get his life back together. I have not found one in 50 years. Now, what we do have is vagrants. And vagrants, by definition, just bounce around wherever. Frequently, usually addicted. Usually habitual criminals. And will just, are just living off of begging and preying on others and things when they can find them. That's what we've got in Reno. And that's what you've got almost every place. And so this idea that there are people who cannot find housing when you can, I've got a list in my binder here of about 24 places in town where you can go if you want to get off the street.
And food is even better.
We have 27 food pantries, and we have any one of which.
Nobody should be hungry.
We'll give you enough. Oh, they're not, believe me. They have $300 of food stamps, every single one of them, which they usually sell, federal offense. And they sell them because you can go to, between the Sparks mission, Gospel Mission, and twice a day, and St. Vincent de Paul. Not St. Vincent de Paul, what's the one down there? I guess it is.
No, I think it is. Yeah, I think that's correct.
You can get more. Who eats 3 full meals a day? And if you can see my hand, this is how the food gets mounded on you at any of those places, and it's good.
That's too many calories, they'd all be fat.
Yeah, well, and if you look at them, a lot of the ones who got the sign saying, "Oh, hungry," belly's hanging pretty over the belt there, Ed. So,
hey, Paul, while I have you, I happen to be outside Melbourne, Florida.
Nice.
And my mom was in the hospital, and I had a little route from the beach here to Melbourne. And
nice.
Panhandlers, and I actually have been talking with nurses about homeless here. And how could, I don't think they're new, but the numbers are small or they're well hidden. Is that not the time to have laws that and actions that can nip it in the bud before it grows up till you have something like we got?
Yeah, it sure is, Ed. I'll give you an example. We moved to Reno about 7 years ago, and the homeless count was 80. We had 80 homeless people. Now, 7 years later, it's increased 2,000%, and we have over 2,000. On that trajectory, and it's probably going to be even a sharper trajectory, minimally we'll have over 30,000 homeless by 2031. Wow. And so when you think about this now, so currently they're less than 1% of our population here in Reno. They are over 20% of all the crimes that are committed. They are much worse than that. They're close to half of all the emergency services, police, fire, etc. As a fireman explained to me one time, what that means is when your 3-year-old's choking and you need us to get there ASAP, I'm tied up pulling a drunk or a loaded homeless guy out of the intersection for the 5th time that morning, and I'm not going to be able to get there in time, and your child's going to die. And he said, people don't see this. They don't understand it. They talked about the Palisades fire. The dangerous part is, so a lot of these vagrants are also extremely high-end sociopaths and psychopaths, and no conscience about stuff at all, because it's all about them. And they set lots of fires here that we don't know about, that we don't hear about. And so when we look at Palisades and around there and say, holy cow, what happened? We're a breath away from having that situation right here. And so, of course, what draws them? Well, what draws them is there is no consequences for illegal behavior, virtually. There is easily accessible drugs, and again, virtually no problem there. We have what we call our homeless area, CARES campus, because it's funded with federal money. It's what they call low barrier, which means, mistakenly, it has never had one success story since it started. Good part is the city gets a ton of money that the bureaucrats can skim off of for, quote, implementing the loan or the grant. And the bad part is that every last thing that keeps a vagrant, drug, alcohol abuse, not wanting to work, no attempt to law-abiding behavior, every one of those things that would get them productive is forbidden when you take federal money. So therefore, you've got them in there, and I've been in there myself undercover, and we've sent other guys in there undercover in this big tent, holds almost 700 people. Well, take your pick. It's disgusting, constant bed bugs, a new disease I never heard of called shigellosis.
I think it's shigellosis.
Shigellosis.
I think that's what you told me. Yeah.
Which mental health department says comes from, hold your nose, a combination of unsanitary handling of anal, oral sex, and human feces. You don't want to think too long about that one. And the health department told me, well, in their little bulletin said, well, 9 people have been hospitalized. And I called the health department. I said, I'm puzzled. I didn't know you put out an emergency bulletin every time somebody gets a non-lethal disease. Like 9 people get the flu, we're going to get a bulletin. I said, no, I've got somebody working over there talking to me. He said, they've seen 200 people go to the hospital. And the health department lady said immediately, oh, well, we know there's a lot more out there.
Wow.
9 to 200. So, they say the first casualty of war is truth.
Well, that's the truth.
And we are at war on this. And so when we went in there, what did we see? 10 machetes and 3 guns by the people inside, and they go through a metal detector.
Oh.
Machetes about half as long
I
as
was
my
going to
arm.
say, yeah.
Well, how do they get in? As the people inside tell me, they go around behind, over the fence, throw it over there, and other guys go pick it up. So they've got all this. They constantly spray for bed bugs because they can never get turn the corner on them. The place is new, and yet they're very abusive with it. Threatening to kill the staff selling fentanyl and meth to the clients. You can go out anytime, 24/7, night or day, get as loaded as you want, bring anything you want back inside, and just keep going. So why do we have this homeless problem? There's no enforcement. Now go right over next to our sister city there, Sparks. When the banks of our side of the Truckee are crowded with homeless camps, they have none. When everybody over here is pushing around stolen shopping carts, which the chief of police, who's also complicit in this, just hiding from the problem, we've begged her to interview with us on a number of occasions, and she just refuses.
And I'm going to take this opportunity to put a shout out to Drew Rebar, who has been taking his camera and going out there with Paul and recording a lot of this stuff and sharing exactly what's going on. You were at the police department, and then
we were in the DA's office. We were at we've just at the camps trying to get them out. But so you look at if the chief, well, the other day, we'd been leaning on them quite a bit to get a really bad, evil-looking camp a block from the police department to get it removed. And then one by GSR, the resort. And both of them were removed. No citations whatsoever were issued.
Now, the one by GSR, was it actually by GSR? Was it
Right
behind, or was it right here?
Where was it?
Was it across the street?
No, it was just right over where GSR has their RV parking.
Oh, I know where
the
that
back
is.
is
Yes.
the fence, and they were
Yes.
on the other side of the fence.
Okay, gotcha.
And so they were right by the water treatment plant where one of the top guys at the water department had shown videos of them throwing huge, again, this is kind of a yucky broadcast
Yeah,
we're giving
gross.
you, throwing gallon baggies of urine and buckets of human excrement into the treatment ponds at the treatment facility. And so now,
it's just
so
such a void of leadership.
well, it absolutely is. And then you've got a DA, Chris Hicks, an elected position. So remember that when the election comes up. We worked with a guy who owns a bunch of land, empty land out North Reno, North Virginia. He cleared 30 or 40 homeless off of there. And their little meth labs and all their disgusting waste and everything else. Now, one of these guys threatened my partner to kill him 3 separate times, stick 3 big dogs on him one time, barely got in his truck, dropped his pants, and excessive, obscene exposure, whatever you'd want to call it, to him. Took an old truck, went to his pickup truck, slammed into it repeatedly, did $20,000 worth of damage. With him in the truck, came sideways, started pushing, trying to push him into a ravine. He would have flipped several times, could have killed himself. So we had a minimum of 4 felonies there that got charged and sent to the DA. And when my friend went to court on this, his DA appointed attorney, you know, they like to keep their conviction rate up, even if it means that they shoot somebody and they get to convict them for jaywalking. It's still a conviction. They dropped all 4 felonies, wouldn't let us bring the main witness or the main evidence, and the guy pled to a public trespassing and walked.
So this is totally legit for them to do. They can make that call. They can make that decision.
Happens
As
all
the
the time.
person that has accused them, they don't have anything to say about it.
Nothing to say. So when we were just beyond disgusted, went right down to the DA, demanded to sit down with one of his, he never did pop his head out of the closet, one of his assistants and the attorney, etc. And they said, well, they didn't mean to want to do any of this. But the judge, who was Judge Steinheimer, she wouldn't let us bring the evidence, said she just didn't like the case. And, you know, we have to deal with her every day, so we were afraid she'd take it out on us, etc. I sat right there like I'm looking at you, Jan, and I made an appointment with Judge Steinheimer. Told her this stuff, and she said, it's 100% a lie. I never said one word of that. Not one word. She says, I couldn't affect he said, you didn't like the case. She laughed. She said, oh, there'd be a lot more cases going by if that was possible. She says, I don't have the authority to do any of those things they described. And what comes of this? Absolutely nothing. So if you look down, got a mayor and city council. Like you were saying, Ed, no leadership. They don't go anywhere. One of the council members, Megan Ebert, said one day after I commented about the non-enforcement, she said, oh, I took a ride along with the police where some camps were, and they were very respectful. The officers were very respectful to them. Who cares how they were to them? They shouldn't be there polluting our water. But she said, I believe in enforcing the law, but she said, we are not going to drag any of them out of there against their will, of course. Well, it sounds a lot like an elected official saying she's not going to enforce the laws that she doesn't agree with or believe in. And has yet to withdraw the comments. City Attorney Carl Hall, a total coward, would not confront her. We've contacted all these people. So there's your city council. And at her request, we had a meeting with Mayor Sheevy a few weeks ago,
I was going to mention that, yeah.
who talked extremely tough about how much she favored what we're trying to do. If they want to really solve the homeless problem, the vendor they've had for years and who have failed horribly for years, who runs it for them, is Volunteers of America. They could not be more inept. The leader, who I also met with, the vice president here, I think his first name, Travis. I met with him and I was talking to him about the things going on in the tent, the violence, the threats, etc. This is what he's the vice president of, right? VP, assistant CEO, something like that. He looked, did either of you ever see the movie Being There with Peter Sellers, who wanders into the White House? He's kind of an addled man, and he ends up being president. Well, this is exactly who the head of VOA is like. He looked bewildered like, huh. And so VOA is the worst. They need to be cut loose. They've had years to prove they can run programs. They can't. They cut this off. There's 2 organizations in town on a large scale, have had laws, have had rules, get results daily. And that would be the Sparks Reno Gospel Mission on 2nd or Record Street. And that would be Victory Outreach out the other end of town. And they're both churches, kind of. And the only thing to do is you've got tons of big, strong churches, really well led, wanting to get involved in this. You need to put together a nonprofit coalition we've got hundreds of churches in Sparks, Reno. Put the Gospel Mission and Victory Outreach in control of it. The county needs to deed the entire property and buildings over to this nonprofit alliance. Cut off the federal money. County steps back out of the way and says, like with the Gospel Mission's instance, this is over 60 years. They've done it right. They kind of know what they're doing. Let them run it. And the first thing that would happen is they'd have rules. And the second thing that would happen is 3/4 of all these vagrants would leave town. And they just, again, remember definition of a vagrant.
Right.
You just go around looking for a soft touch.
Sure.
And so this would work. Hillary, the Sheevy, the mayor, oh, this sounded great. We're going to have a meeting with them, etc. No. It's totally backed up.
So she's not.
No,
following
she's
through.
absolutely not. The county commissioner, so here we go.
When
Ed.
is her term done? Her term is done soon.
Not
isn't
soon
it?
enough. About 2 years. So we've got nobody leading the council. The commissioners, whether they were alleged conservatives like Jeannie and Mike Clark, whether they were supposed liberals like 2 of the Lexus and Garcia, or whether they were, am I a Republican or am I a Democrat, Miss Andriola, they all sit there, get that Peter Sellers look on their face when you talk to them about you need to go get this. So there's your 2 governing bodies. You got a police chief who sits in her office crunching numbers, trying to give, her latest thing was to, buy some kind of computer thing that will tell when gunshots are fired where they were fired downtown. Good idea. What could possibly be better? How about something where they're not letting them fire the
There
gunshot?
you go. I like it.
Any of your listeners or you guys, if you get a chance, a small doc making company has come out with several videos called Dregs of the City. And one is San Francisco. I'm trying to think where the second one is. And the third one, Dregs of the City. And there we are, Reno. And it just shows how unbelievably we are getting scammed. They won't enforce the law. I was telling you guys earlier, so your readers would know. Milliken Foundation releases this annual list of most desirable cities to live in.
Oh, yeah.
And in 2020, Reno ranked 4th in the whole country. And coming up so the next 4 years, we went from 4th to 13th to like 19th to 39th, and it just came out for 2025. We're ranked 93rd. So we have gone from 4th to 93rd, a drop unlike anyone connected with that had really ever seen.
Yeah.
But this is it. No leadership. And then we'll finish it off with the city having their main library in downtown. But they're run by the county, so they both have skin in the game. And every morning, starting about 9:30, library opens at 10. The vans start pulling up from CARES campus and a thing called Karma Box and Safe Camp, which is another fraud and scheme to be talked about at some time. And they start dropping off all these vagrants to go there. And what they can do is they can go in there. There's no screening for weapons. They're filthy. Half of them are loaded. Took 4 steps out the front door the other morning and like my head twisted. It was like somebody had blown ammonia or acrid smoke up your nose. And it was just a woman smoking crack right outside the door.
Oh, my goodness.
And so they can go in there, and in the library they can watch unlimited pornography all day long, including the absolute worst stuff you've ever seen, bestiality, you name it. We took black lights, 2 different occasions, and scanned around, and there was, as I said at the county commissioners meeting this morning, there was abundant evidence of masturbation around this. Now remember, this is an area where the children can come. This was a front page story in the Gazette Journal this weekend. They don't have to do it. Supreme Court said no, libraries don't have to make it accessible. The director lied about that. They said if you're going to have it, you got to have like a privacy screen on it. Director said, oh, we have them. The reporter said, no, I was right there. You don't. The third one was,
Well, I'm glad to hear they were honest about that. That the reporter was honest.
Yeah, that was very refreshing. That was Mark Robeson.
We need to give him some credit.
Yeah, no, Mark Robeson did a fine job on this. The director had been telling his board that if he wouldn't show porn, they'd lose millions of dollars a year in grants for their internet. And so the reporter contacted the head of Clark County Libraries and said, how much porn do you allow? And the director told him, oh, none whatsoever for anybody. And he said, well, don't you lose millions of dollars? And she said, oh, no, we collect every same pennies that you do. And then the third one was that the librarians are always, he lied to the board and said, the librarians are constantly moving throughout all our buildings looking for anything untoward. And 6 different librarians at 6 different branches I spoke with said they are not allowed to block or monitor anything that anyone is watching.
Wow.
And then on top
So
of that,
the
the board keeps
blatant
him hired.
lies, the blatant lies don't seem to
Mean a thing.
Yeah.
No.
Well, it also sounds like, many of these folks are elected folks. Our population needs to be informed, and I certainly thank you for this information.
Well, thanks, Ed. We're pushing as hard as we can. It's kind of like when you
The
look
problem with the election issue, as you guys all know,
the honesty
is
of it.
you got to have honesty.
When you look over in
And-
California, and you look at that and you think, who in their right mind would have voted for this mayor or this governor?
Yeah. And how many times are you going to recall Gavin Newsom, right?
Right.
They just keep rigging the vote. So sorry, but that's the way it is.
But I had a board member who would lean toward getting rid of the director this morning. She called me, and she was saying, well, I protested. Well, but I'm only one person. I can't. I said, wow, you sound a lot like Jeff Church and Colleen Westlake before they went on the board. So here she is saying she's against it. I said, I could get you on a bunch of podcasts. Have you been on any? No. She said, well, I can only talk my 2 minutes at the meeting. I said, you've got the court of public opinion.
That's
I
right.
said, you've got...
Have a town hall.
Yeah. I said,
Have a town hall.
I said, I'll set it up. We'll do a press conference. We'll help you write op-eds. And I said, you willing to do that? And no. And then the press conference we had at the library 2 weeks ago, she came by, and she's a young mother. And I said, well, it was nice you drove by and waved and kind of said good luck. I said, it would have taken you 5 minutes to step up to the TV camera, say, I'm an elected board member. Let me tell you, they're trying to run over this. This is horrible. They're pushing me around. Could have gone up to Drew Rebar's
Right.
auditing Reno
Right.
911. They didn't. So yeah, we've got.
Yeah, to stay informed about this, go to Auditing Reno 911
yeah.
and watch what he's putting out there, because he does a good job, and I think he's fair. I don't
Oh,
think
yeah.
that, and he seems to know the law, so
Yeah, very much.
you
so.
know, stays within the lines, so to speak, right?
Right.
But at the same time, still being honest and forthright
Oh.
about it.
Yeah.
With this nationally change of philosophy,
Thank goodness.
are you going to get any help from the new president?
Well, it's a good question. You know, you hear a lot of talk about Trump going to drain the swamp and stuff. And I believe he's working his heart out. And with these guys, he's got to drain the federal one.
Right.
First,
But nothing is going to happen if each of us in our local communities don't drain our own swamp.
Right.
And so this is what we're pushing for. So in answer to the question, if you go, police won't enforce the law, courts won't, a DA won't prosecute the law. Courts, we've got a homeless court. If any of the three of us did even a high-end misdemeanor, we'd end up in front of a regular court getting punished. We have what they call a community court, aka homeless court. Actually totally unconstitutional, 14th Amendment. How's that equal protection? You get one justice if you're on the street vagrant. And the punishments are something like go outside and pick up 5 pieces of paper, or go to this resume preparation room. Who on earth, who's on the street needs a resume for anything?
Yeah.
And and so the judge, and he meets in a room where they sit 2 feet apart with no amplification, and you're 50 feet away. You can't hear a word of who's being looked at. What can you do? Drew and I were over filming and trying to chase the judge down. So judges won't do it, won't pursue it.
Okay, so we know the problems.
Yep.
We have a pretty good idea, and you've painted an ugly picture for us. So what are the solutions, and how do the people, because you know you're trying to do your part, you're exposing, and you know that's important. But there has to be solutions that somebody like me, somebody like Ed, somebody like Doug, that we can do something. And yes, elections are important, and I do agree with that. And I would continue to vote, even though I tell you it's rigged, and it
Right.
is. But I'll keep voting. However, there has to be something else we can do.
Well, you can. 2 things. The one I mentioned, push for in the big sense, you've got to get rid of Volunteers of America running that multi-million megaplex and bring in that nonprofit coalition of churches led by people who have actually done this. So you got to
So
push.
who do we go to do that?
Who you'd go to would be go to commissioner meetings, and if you got a little extra time, go to Ventura City Council meetings. But the county runs it through their vendors. Go to them and push them on these. Why aren't you doing this? Why are you trying to stay involved in it when it's nothing but an ineffective headache that's trying to bankrupt?
Well, we
our
all
town?
know it's always about the money. So what money is going to be affected if they get rid of Volunteers of America? And
They're going to save a lot of money. They're going to not be able to skim off the grants like they do.
so that's where the money is going to go
But
away.
what they're going to save on is how much is this 93rd or 193rd, whatever we were, how much money is this ranking that just came out going to cost us in new businesses? We've got another little incubator for future vagrants is our school district. So like I say, worst in the nation. So we're bringing them up with all the qualities that lead to vagrancy as you get older. They won't do it. So you're trying to get people to come to your town so you can survive. Downtown, nobody in their right mind goes down there by themselves. It's scaring off future employers. It's scaring off future families who would say, boy, we don't want that.
So do you have a strategic plan in mind already that
Oh yeah, I'm going to these meetings every week, every place I can talk or write about or get on. So like, I mean, last week we got on TV. Drew's probably done 4 or 5, been to 3 council commissioner meetings, one at the school district. I mean, it just becomes a full-time job. What
yeah.
can you do? Go to these, go in early. Get your card. You can walk in 15 minutes before the meeting starts. They'll call you up, give your 3 minutes, get in the car and drive home and go to work and do your day. Just make it we got to get more involved. So speak to these groups, be one, push for this solution. Try to call them out, get them to come on your show and interview with you. Write op-eds. Get on here on yours, call Eddie Floyd, get on his. Again, the small numbers add up if you go on enough of them.
They do, you're right.
And just contact the police chief. Why does she not go out in the neighborhood anywhere and talk to anybody except under extreme cover and,
Right.
anonymity? Those are the things.
Okay. So that's good advice, and I think that some people will do some of that. I'm gonna then say to you, like we were talking to Doug about the fire stuff, where's the plan? And can somebody else look at it and see what your idea for fixing this once we can get those folks in and like that, because there's got to be more to this than, do you know what I'm saying?
Well,
I think it's important that we kind of wrap our heads around, hey, this man's got a plan, let's make something happen. Sorry about that, I don't know why that did that.
Yeah, well, the plan is you've got to be, it's just real simple. The federal money is at the heart of killing us because it doesn't allow us to do anything but provide for, become the de facto.
So if I could get 100 people to say, hey, stop going after that federal money, would that be a good start to the plan?
To go public where others could hear you would be a
Yeah.
great start.
Yeah, that's
For
what I'm
instance,
saying.
what you could do, you could organize a petition drive on your show.
There you go. All
Have
right.
people just send in your name and address and phone number. We do that. And enough of us do this. For example, the library board is.
Yeah, but we all need to understand what we need to do. This helps.
Oh yeah.
This helps a lot.
And it's real simple. It's cut off the federal money, get rid of the current vendor, turn the entire program over to a nonprofit group of alliance of churches here in town, and for the police enforce the law. If you go on the
And would you say that, you know the police, would you say that most of them really want to enforce the law?
oh heck yeah, the rank and file are frustrated as heck. We got great cops in Reno.
Right, and I think they get bashed a lot. I think people need to know they really would like to do their job.
What we haven't had in my time in Reno is a good chief. They've both been weak, and the only ones supporting him a little bit are the guys who would hope to be sitting in her chair one day, and it's very few. But we've got the cops want to do it. What frustrates them is the best sample. If you went over by the GSR where we got that camp finally cleared temporarily, you look on one side of the river. Our side was loaded with camps. Look right across the river,
Right.
Sparks, clean, not a one there. Try to find a homeless guy pushing a cart in Sparks.
Yeah, you're not
Or
gonna.
why don't we have, for example, Walmart's the biggest offender of this because they don't care. All the stolen carts piled high that make it easy for these vagrants to get around. All they need is a letter to the police department from Walmart saying anybody off our property with one has stolen it and we want it back. And the police could stop any homeless person on the street, say, I'm sorry you got stolen merchandise, you need to take everything out, pile it on the sidewalk, we're taking the cart. And then as they pull away, say to the homeless person, well, you got to remind you, you also can't leave all it's illegal to store your stuff here. So we'll be back around in an hour, and if it's not gone, the stuff will be. Now, Sparks does this. The homeless who have been over in Sparks and tried to get a toehold there have all the respect in the world for the Sparks police, who are respectful but strong.
Right.
We'll warn you
Well,
once.
because what you're talking about isn't arresting them. It's not doing anything
Gives them a
except
court
saying,
appearance.
yeah, except saying, you know what, you've broken the law. We're taking this. You got to do that, and there you go.
Right. If we catch you again with the cart,
Yeah,
it's an
that's not-
automatic sight. Pardon me.
And there are places to stay and places to get food. Go there.
Tons. Right. And so the thing is, in talking to both the mayor and the police chief in Sparks, they enforce the law. They do not have any of the issues we do. So as far as simple things, we want the police to enforce the law. We want a group running the homeless shelter that will enforce laws. We want Kmart and the other big box stores that have got this to sign off so the police can take action when they see people with these carts. And see, here's all the ancillary stuff that comes off that you don't hear about. A friend of mine works at REI. Upscale, nice clothing, outdoor. He said maybe 3-4 times a week, one guy will come in, homeless guy, kind of case the place, leave, then another guy will come in, go over the rack, as big as his arms can go, around like $400 coats, and just walk out the front door. And the manager says, if you go outside the door after him, you're fired.
Oh.
Now, this happens constantly at Home Depot. They have guys coming in there like ants at a picnic, carrying out air conditioners, carts piled high with power tools, etc. So you got to talk. The police need to go talk to these big boxes and say, a friend of mine saw a panel truck pull up in front of Walmart over there, I think by Michael's. 3-4 people came out with 3 or 4 carts piled high with flat screen TVs, you name it, rolled up the door on the back of the truck, filled it in the middle of the day, and just went off. And you read about the article in the paper about Roberto's Tacos, one of them serving as a fence for a lot of this stolen stuff. And so we were laughing that your order, mostly construction tools, that you could go into Roberto's Tacos and still have 2 enchiladas, rice and beans, and a skill saw. How great is that?
Wow.
Can I
It's
just
flat
for a
out
second?
embarrassing.
It is, Ed. It's so you got to laugh to keep from crying.
Yeah, really.
I want to read this. It's applicable, and it's where I got it about the mayor of Los Angeles, but I thought it was kind of funny. It says, the LA mayor issued an executive order to expedite rebuilding. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass issued an executive order late Monday that said her office said, we will expedite the rebuilding of homes, businesses, and communities devastated by the wildfires. This order is the first step in clearing away red tape and bureaucracy to organize around urgency, common sense, and compassion. Bass said in a statement, we will do anything we can to get Angelinos back at home. Organize around urgency, common sense, and compassion. What that means is
Her lack of
now,
confidence.
they don't have that.
Right. That all that stuff exists because of her. She's the mayor. Oh, yeah.
That was, if
Well,
you
it's
look
the-
at that, what it says.
It's the liberal double speak. Nobody's to blame for anything.
Right. Right.
Oxymoron.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
But there you go. There's your answer. Push for the
Okay.
get
I
it away
think
from
that-
them.
I think that anyone who's listening that can do any of these things should act on that. I'm happy to be a catalyst to helping to
Same
make
here.
this happen.
Same
I
here.
know Paul's been doing this for a long time, and we've had him on before, and we really want to see our city be the place we're proud of. We always have been.
And what's the
Go,
alternative?
man.
What's the alternative?
Go, folks, go.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, and I love the idea. Let's get Walmart to sign off on that.
Yeah.
That's a great
That'd be
start.
something great to
What a
take-
great start. That's so easy.
And then you do one of two things once you go to Walmart. See, this is what so we went to the DA asking him to come out and explain why those felonies got dropped. If he'd come out and explained, justified it, well, he'd have a supporter.
Right.
He didn't, then all of a sudden he's put the light on him. So you go to Walmart
Right.
and you ask for it, and they say, yes, I will. Pump up Walmart, shop there, do
Absolutely.
it, police.
Yeah,
Okay. Then you go to
sure.
the chief of police. We've got this. Now, where are you? But if the Walmart guy makes some excuses, then make them the focus.
Right.
Boycott them,
Right.
do whatever. Use.
Right. Well, we have to shed a light on it, and it can't
Got
be
to.
just you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not enough.
Well, see,
You know,
they'll
as
try
much
to
as-
weaken it. They'll try to say, it's like when you challenge a company. I can't count the times I've been called
well, many things.
Frustrated former employee or
Oh yeah.
out of sorts.
Yeah.
It's got to come from all over the place.
Right. It does. It does. And that's why we wanted to have you on. We wanted to shed a light on this as much as we can.
Appreciate
and
it very much.
And yeah, I think these are good things that we can do, and I think they give us power to
Absolutely, they
make something
do.
happen that is easy, right? I mean, because we're all looking for easy.
Yes.
Sorry,
well,
but
no, we are. If you want somebody to help you, make it easy for them to
Right,
help you.
exactly, and that's what I was trying to find. is
Right.
What's an easy thing that anybody can do? We can all write a letter to Walmart and say, "Hey, guess what?" So we'll put together a petition drive and see if we can't make something like that happen. I mean, that's pretty simple.
Well, and drop
right?
You know what they're going to do? You say, Paul White?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be Paul White.
No.
It can be, look, here's what we see. We see them standing out by my Walmart. There's always somebody out there, right? They're on the corner there. There's always, I mean, they take turns. They have a little spot that they meet. I watch them. It's like
Sure they do.
shifts. They do shifts with this homeless stuff. And they got their bike there, and then they, they
Stolen.
trade off. And I mean, it's
the
crazy. It's
panhandlers
a
with
system.
signs making
Yeah.
millions.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a system. And you watch them and and then you see some people that really feel bad for them and give them stuff, and I think, seriously, do you know what city you live in? These people have whatever they need. They have a place to live, they have food, they have more than we have. We work hard for what we do, and it's crazy.
I shop usually the Safeway there in Damani or the Walmart there off
Safeway has equal problems
Arrow
over
Creek.
there.
And in both, there's regulars that work their parking lot, and I had a real,
yes.
I had a real old guy. I was going to tease Eddie Floyd. It looked just like Eddie, and he was coming on a case. I was going to ask Eddie if that's his side hustle, and the guy comes up and he says, "Oh, I'm just trying to get a few bucks for groceries." I had talked to him a few weeks ago, and probably too many doses ago, and I said, "Oh no, you forget. We talked last time." I said, "You couldn't be hungry with the pantries and the free meals." And I said, "And you got $300 worth of food stamps." I said, "Hey, it's around first of the month. I don't get food stamps." I said, "Oh, you sure could." "No, I can't. That's baloney." So he didn't say baloney. And I said, "Well, there's only two reasons you couldn't get them. You got enough other disability checks that you don't even qualify."
Right,
Or I said, "They caught you selling them and they cut you off."
right.
I said, "But 100% guarantee you got." And of course, they shuffle off and look for the next person.
Of course. of
Ayn
course.
Rand had a great
But
saying.
that's what people need to know, is that they do have
Yeah.
this available to them, and if they're not getting it, there's a reason they're not getting
You
it.
tell them that. And
Yeah.
Ayn Rand had a great quote. She said, "When you give somebody else a moral blank check to do something, it's because you want them to do the same thing for you." And so when people are saying, "Well, I give money, they're hungry. I know what it's like to want to have a drink or something." Well, then you also know how it destroys your life, and you
Right.
also know you don't want to do it. So the people who are giving them this, who knows what they're into, or they don't want anybody question. Don't question me. I won't question you.
Right.
But we got to stand up, and
Well, you've given us
can
some
be done.
tools to work with, so I appreciate that, and I think that we need to act on this. What do you guys think?
Yes.
Yes? Yeah.
I'm
Ed, you
in.
in? All right.
And
We're in.
yeah.
We're
And
in.
some now, even if you go for your petition drive or Walmart, and again, I would recommend don't write or call Walmart. Pull over, get a few things that you need, or so. Pull over and just, "I want to talk to store manager," and say, "Are you over the whole store?" Tell him what you want him to do. Well, I can't make that decision. Say, well, who is the store manager? And he'll tell you, say, well, let me give you my contact info. I'd like him to call me, please. Okay, he calls you. Great, report it. He doesn't call you, report it.
Report it, yes.
And see, that's how you
Right.
hold them. This board member, I didn't finish it, who had called me this morning, and so, well, I'm trying to do this, and they just won't let me. And that's why when I told her, well, you won't do any of these other things. Well, I'm just doing my best. And I said, raising young children is a big job. And if it's too much, that's understandable. Get out and quit your job and let's get somebody we can put in here on the board. I said, don't hold 500,000 people hostage because
Right.
you're a busy young mom.
Right.
I said, it's fine to be a good mom. It's fine to be a responsible board member. I said, quit trying to do a crummy job with the latter one and then use that as an excuse for why you don't. I said, you're killing the rest of us. I said, this library is gone.
Yeah.
Anybody goes that downtown
There's
library
just so many
is-
pieces to this
She
that
didn't want to hear that, did she?
Not at all.
so many things that you can attack on this. I'm
Oh, yeah.
telling you. It's crazy. Well, Paul, I really appreciate you sharing the information,
Thanks
despite the fact that it was a little lucky.
Thanks for having me. It is. Well, it's like doing this stuff. It's like eating Brussels sprouts. It's an acquired taste.
It is.
And once you get in this and you see
I like
some
Brussels
things,
sprouts. Come on.
yeah, it's a fixed right.
I don't think that this is going to be an acquired taste, though. Sorry.
It feels pretty. You do win once in a while, at least small ones, and but yeah. Just,
Well, I as I said, I think that there are some tools here that we can use, and
Good.
and people out there, I hope that as you're listening, that you can find what works for you, and
Yeah.
that you will do something. Even an email to them. I realize that that's
Better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. I mean, start somewhere, start small and grow into it, because that's what we all did. Hey, when I started working elections, that was not my forte at all. But when I got into it, it was like, how can I not do something?
well, I'd encourage the people who think, that nobody listened to me or whatever. Contact the Walton family in Arkansas if you need to. I had an indescribably ineffectively run Bank of America in Ventura. I'd been it for years. Finally, it had it, and I went home that night. I looked online for the contact info for the CEO of Bank of America in New York City. And I sent him an email, brief one, and I just said, you're over this huge corporation and I'm nobody. But I said, if I were you, I think you'd want to know what I am experiencing. Sent it off, didn't think a thing. Till my phone, this was late at night, and the next morning at 10 o'clock, the phone rang, and it was the VP of Bank America for Los Angeles,
Wow.
who said, can you meet me at your bank tomorrow morning? And called all the employees together and brought me up. I'd been there over 30 years. Said, this can't happen again, which endeared me to all the employees. But what I mean is, you can
Make a change.
get through, Don't
Yeah.
give up.
Yeah. No, it's.
I'm not a Hillary Clinton fan, but sometimes it does take a village.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, just because it's who she is doesn't mean she says all bad things.
yeah.
What can I tell you? Well, I want to thank you, Paul.
Thank
and
you.
we didn't even have time to do our book blitz today, but that's okay. We've got it for next week. And we appreciate you taking your time out of your day. And
Appreciate
I
you
told him a
having me.
half hour, he spent a whole hour. So
My
what can I
pleasure.
tell you?
My pleasure.
I
Good
knew
company.
Paul can always talk.
Ed, good seeing you as always.
You
All
too,
right,
Paul.
and
Thank you,
to
guys.
our audience, thank you so much, and we appreciate you. This is What's the Story. We are on every week from 3 to 5, live streaming, and then airing again between 7 and 9 on 93.7 FM in Northern Nevada. So hang in there, have a great week, and get ready to do a petition. How about that?
Yes.
All right, everybody. Take care, and thanks again.
Thank you.